So that's a great question. Why don't I exclude stocks that are either too expensive or too cheap for my strategy, or that have a float that's too high? Why don't I just exclude them entirely from my scanners? The reason I don't do that for the top gainers scanner specifically is because I want to have a good sense of what is actually the leading percentage gainer in the market and what is the stock that most traders are watching. It may happen to be that it's a stock that is too cheap for my strategy, or is too expensive, or where the float is too high. But if I create a filter that's too narrow, then I might have the artificial sense that the stock that's at the top of that scan is the most obvious stock in the entire market. And maybe it is when you add those filters. But in fact, I may be excluding a stock that is getting a lot more attention, has a lot more volume. And it would be a mistake for me to ignore that. Even though I may not want to trade it, I have to recognize that I will do better when I'm trading the stock that is in fact the most obvious because it has the most eyes on it. So it really is better for me to, at least on the top gainer scanner, cast a little bit of a wider net and then manually choose that, okay, I'm not going to trade that one because the price is too low or too high or the float's too high or whatever the case is. But for that scan to really be able to genuinely see what is the most obvious stock in the market. Now, having said that, for my high day momentum scanner, that's a little bit different. That scanner has audio alerts, and I don't need to get an audio alert and notification on a stock that has a float that's way too high or a price that's too cheap or is way too expensive. So for that scanner, I do add all of my filters to make sure I'm getting those alerts just on really good, viable candidates that I should consider for possible trades. So in that context, I do think it's important to add filters because if you don't, you're going to end up getting a lot of unnecessary and basically irrelevant alerts, so much so that you'll learn to just ignore the alerts. And if you're ignoring the alerts, then they're not doing you any good. So for the high day momentum scanner and some of the reversal scanners that are part of Day Trade Dash, I do have a lot of filters, but for the top gainer scanner, I keep the filters a little bit looser so I can have a real genuine sense of what is the most obvious stock in the market today.